Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Riya Gandhi and in today's video we are going to discuss one of the most important concepts related to classic literary criticism, which is often asked in UGC NET English exam. And that is Matthew Arnold's Touchstone method. In this video, we are going to understand Matthew Arnold as a critic, then learn about his contributions to literary criticism and finally decode his Touchstone method. Stay tuned till the end of this video because I will be sharing certain interesting tips and insights related to UGC NET English exam and Matthew Arnold's theories. Matthew Arnold was a Victorian poet who is largely known for his poems and literary criticisms in English literature. At the same time, he is also famous for his harsh instructions and the chastisement to the readers. At the same time, him chastising the aristocracy and the masses in the way they are reading the texts. Now, if you look at his personality carefully, you will realize that he has this personality of a school teacher who is, no matter what, is always angry at his students. Interestingly, Matthew Arnold worked as an inspector of schools for 35 years. He was himself an Oxford student, and while he was studying at Oxford, he became really close friends with Arthur Hugh Clough. Their friendship was so strong and so close that when Arthur Hugh Clough died, Matthew Arnold wrote an elegy titled as Thyrses to commemorate his friend. During his bachelor days itself, Matthew Arnold came to be known as the prolific poet that we know him to be today because he published his first volume of verse titled as The Strayed Reveller and Other Poems that were published by A. And that was published in 1849. In 1853, he published his first volume of poems under his own name. And it was in the preface of this particular collection that he provides us with the hint of his later literary criticism. In this particular preface, he's basically talking about how a poem should be. As in, it should constitute unity, universality, impersonality, and distance. In the year 1857, he was elected as a professor of poetry at Oxford. It's very ironical to note that in the year that he was elected as a professor of poetry, he abandoned writing poetry. And then you see the emergence of Matthew Arnold as a critique. Matthew Arnold's prose writings, especially the non-fiction prose writings, can largely be divided into three categories: literary criticism, general social criticism, and religious criticism. In this video, we are only concerned with literary criticism. One of the most influential contributions made by Matthew Arnold to English literary criticism was his essays in criticism that were published in two series. In the first series that was published in 1865, he delineated the function of criticism. He said that to criticize is to know the best that is known and thought in the world, and by making them known, to create a current of true and fresh ideas. Now, he looked at the English literary criticism with skeptical lens because he believed that it suffered from provinciality. Since it resisted new and fresh ideas, it was very narrow and close-minded. He urged for a more disinterested and well-informed criticism. By disinterested, he basically meant an unbiased form of criticism that would help in assimilating new and fresh thought and style from various sources to create the culture of center. By various sources, he basically meant imitating the ancient Greeks for poetry and the modern French for prose, because he believed that they possessed an imaginative reason that satisfied the thinking masculine power and had a religious sense. Friends, if you look at Arnold's ideas very carefully, you will realize that they are a lot similar to the ideas provided by one of the most prolific writers of German language, whose name is Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Goethe was the one who popularized the concept of Weltliteratur, which basically means world literature. The concept of world literature is tightly connected to the field of comparative literature, and so the connection between the ideas of Goethe as well as Matthew Arnold makes Matthew Arnold one of the first practitioners of the field of comparative literature in English literature. And you can see that happening as well in the second series of essays and criticism, which was published in 1888. The series basically begins with the essay, The Study of Poetry. It was actually written as a general introduction to T.H. Ward's The English Poets that was published in 1680. In this particular essay, he provides the function of poetry, or rather the criticism of poetry. And he says that poetry is a criticism of life, fixed under the conditions for such a criticism, bounded by the laws of poetic truth and poetic beauty. Now, it is in this particular essay itself that he provides the concept of the touchstone method. Now, what is a touchstone? A touchstone basically refers to a black siliceous type of stone, such as a jasper, which is often rubbed against precious metals like gold and silver to test their purity. Similarly, Matthew Arnold has turned this concept into a metaphor in this particular essay. And he has said that if you want to measure the greatness of any work of poetry, or if you want to measure the value of poetry, you only need to compare it with the touchstones of literature, which basically means that great poets, great figures of literature and their works will be compared to the given poems to test the value of the given poems. Only then will you be able to arrive at the real estimate of the poem. Now, what is a real estimate? Matthew Arnold has basically delineated 3 estimates for judging the value of poetry. These 3 estimates are historic estimate, personal estimate, and real estimate. According to Arnold, the historic estimate basically refers to the evaluation of poetry not through understanding the features of the poem or through the quality of poetry, rather through evaluating the historical context in which it is written. Basically evaluating the artistic or the cultural history that the poem may or may not have, and based upon that, understanding the worth, understanding its value. According to Arnold, this is a fallacy. Similarly, when he is talking about personal estimate, he says that personal estimate is also a mistake. That is also a fallacy. Personal estimate basically refers to evaluating any poem or evaluating and judging the value of poetry based upon your preferences, based upon your tastes. Now, he says that you cannot judge a value of poetry based upon your likes and dislikes. To understand this, he gives an example of the Scottish writer Robert Burns. And he says that for a Scottish reader, he would love and admire Robert Burns because he has talked about the Scottish life so movingly. But then it may not apply to each and every person who is reading it. And therefore he says that the personal estimate is also a fallacy. You will not arrive at the true evaluation or the true worth of a poetry through historic or personal estimates. Real estimate, on the other hand, surpasses historic and personal estimate. According to Matthew Arnold, it is only through the real estimate that you will be able to arrive at the true evaluation of poetry, that you will be able to measure the true worth of poetry. Now, how do you arrive at the real estimate? By comparing any given poem with the great works of Touchstones. And who are these touchstones? According to Matthew Arnold, these touchstones are basically Dante, Homer, Shakespeare, and Milton. Why? Because their works have stood the test of time and they have provided comfort to human beings. The entire essay, The Study of Poetry, was basically talking about and instructing the readers as to how they can arrive at the real estimate of any poem. That was basically comparing any given poem with the great works of the touchstones or the classic poets that we just discussed right now. Apart from Matthew Arnold's series on essays on criticism, he is also known for his other famous contributions like on translating Homer, the study of Celtic literature, and his most famous work, Culture and Anarchy. These are extremely important from UGC NET point of view. So, if you want to go through these works in detail, especially from UGC NET point of view, and master Matthew Arnold's works, don't worry, I've got you covered. I am taking live UGC NET English exam preparation classes in which I'm sharing certain essential tips and strategies that help me crack UGC NET English exam in just first attempt. Not only that, but I'm also breaking down every complex concept and topic related to the history of British English literature, Indian English literature, and literary criticism in a very detailed and simplified manner. Since these are live one-on-one coaching classes, I'm also providing personalized guidance and sharing feedback tailored to your needs and requirements, trying to fill the gaps in your UGC NET English exam preparation. If you want to know more about the courses I offer, the sessions I take, and the notes I provide, feel free to check out my TopMate page. It's topmate.io/Riya Gandhi. I've shared the link in the description box below, so don't forget to check it out. That's it for today's video, folks. If you found this video on Matthew Arnold and his concept of touchstones informative and helpful, please like it and share it with other UGC NET English aspirants. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out any videos that I will be uploading on such important concepts related to UGC NET English exam in the future. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I'll see you in the next one.